What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another Pound for Pound ATL. Joined as always by my main man, Jonathan. Jonathan, what's going on, brother?
Man, it's a beautiful, Sunday.
Hmm.
Whenever this ends up going out, but today is Sunday and it is a beautiful day.
Yeah,
So just happy to be here.
yeah. And speaking of that, I know this is probably going to go out on either Thursday or Friday, probably. So, but
Mhm.
hopefully y'all have had a good week, and hopefully we've had a good week. But yeah, we're going to continue in our series of talking about position groups as far as free agency goes. um, and like highlighting some guys who could potentially hit the free agent market that we feel like could make our team better. Um, Obviously, the people that we talk about, could get re-signed tomorrow, or they can never make it to the open market. But if they do, these are some of the guys that we hope that the Atlanta Falcons take a interest in and take a look at, because they're the ones that have caught our eye. Same format as the other two videos. We got two guys apiece. This time we're talking about the front seven. We're talking about the defensive
Yep.
line, and we're talking about linebackers as a group in and of itself. So, without further ado, I will go ahead and let Jonathan. You want to start off? Who you want to start off with, brother?
I'm hitting the trenches, going with Draymond
There you
Jones,
go.
Denver Broncos. Like initially, for some, I guess because that's what he comes up as. There's a list of like current free agents that we were looking over, like trying to pick who we wanted to take a look at. And he comes up under there as a defensive tackle.
Right.
If you go, I guess he's more of a like 3-4
Mm-hmm.
defensive end. Um, but he's, when I first took a look at him, I didn't know, I didn't know a ton about
Right.
him. But this guy comes out of Ohio State. This will be his fifth year coming up. He's been through four. He's like top five in pressures this past year. Um, and then when I started taking a look at it, I was like, this guy's a defensive tackle, and he's 6'3", that's good.
Right.
Weight 281,
Nice.
and I was like, that's a little light
Yeah,
in the
that's
caboose
that's a little light on
for a
the.
for a tackle.
Mm-hmm. But if his style is more of like a penetrating three tech who can then,
Yeah,
almost like the four eye type deal, where you're
yep,
like on the inside shoulder of the tackle, outside shoulder of the guard. Like
yeah.
that could be a plus on our line for sure.
Absolutely, and when I sat and watched a little bit of film on this guy, uh, in there in the Denver Broncos kind of base 3-4 look, he very much was a hand in the dirt down, defensive lineman, guy. He had good get off. The guy used his hands really well. But again, at 281, little lighter. So some of I looked at specifically the Jets game. The Jets got a pretty good offensive line. And like there were times where he kind of stalemated with the guard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and but he generally held his own, like held his position. He didn't generally get like pushed out of the way too often. Double teams, he a little bit more, get pushed out, but he's not that kind of Saragusa type, put three guys on him and he still keeps them there. He's
Right.
not that kind of guy. As we already talked about, he's a penetrating, pressure, pass rush guy, and he had like I think 6.5 sacks
Yeah, he had 6.5
this past
sacks,
year.
9 tackles for loss, and 24
Yep.
solo tackles. Um,
Yeah. So this guy's he's got the stats there. He's gotten better every year in the league. He's currently, I guess NFL.com, they have a list of like top 50 free agents.
mhm.
This guy comes in at like number 15.
Okay.
Now he did have a an injury somewhat late in the season, so he didn't get to finish out the season. Um, both guys that I'm looking at kind of had injuries towards the very back of the season, so they didn't get a chance to finish it out.
Mhm.
Um, but he, when I looked at him, the speed, he's not a blazing speed guy. Obviously, I think he ran like I want to say it's like a 5.12.
Right.
Uh, but he was, quick enough to basically keep up with like Garrett Wilson, running after him out of the, as he was trying to scramble out to the edge.
Mm,
Um, he basically didn't allow him to move upfield. He was able to cut him off. So he's got good enough speed there. His 10-yard splits shows some good explosiveness, and that bears out on film. He does have that explosiveness. So yeah, putting him next to Grady Jarrett would definitely be a plus. And what's also cool is like this guy is kind of the prototypical defensive end for what Nielsen kind of
right.
is
Yeah.
looking for. The bigger like I said, 6'3", 280. And while he doesn't have quite the speed, he's got the power.
Right.
And so he could be kind of your power guy, where some guy
Somebody.
like your guy Arden Key
Mm,
maybe on the other side, and then Ebiketti's on the other
right.
side,
Yep.
stuff like that. That gives a little bit more of a speed look. Could be very beneficial. But he looks, he definitely looks the part. I would be excited, if we could somehow get him in here. If Denver ends up letting him walk, I absolutely would love to see him
Oh yeah.
on our
Yeah. He
defensive
would.
line.
He would
So,
definitely be. He would represents definitely an upgrade, especially if you do put him on the edge. In that like Cameron Jordan, bigger pass rush who can also then kick down inside when need be. Well,
yep.
like you alluded to, my guy that one of the guys that I have eared, dog eared is an Arden Key. Now,
Mm-hmm.
oddly enough, coming out of college, I wasn't really high on Arden Key. A lot of people were, but then again, I had, like the like sour taste, so to speak, in my mouth for Vic Beasley at that point, and
Mm-hmm.
Arden Key kind of represented, that same look, for me. He was Oakland Raiders' third overall pick in the 2018 draft.
Mm-hmm.
And since then he's had a tough time finding his way in, finding
Uh-huh.
like his niche in the league. He didn't do so well with the Raiders. Ended up at San Francisco, and in San Francisco he really started getting like his feet under him. And oddly enough,
Mm-hmm.
he got his feet under him like rushing inside as like a sub rusher, not
I
necessarily
guess
bending the edge, but almost like how,
Michael Bennett.
yeah, I'm gonna say how Dan Quinn used Michael Bennett and Adrian Claiborne. Now the deal is like he's 6'5", 240, 250.
Mm-hmm.
He's in that Ebiketie range. So
Yeah.
if you bring this guy in, you bring him in as like part of the pass rushing rotation, being able to give you some different looks because that's how San Francisco used them. That's how Jacksonville used them as like almost a DPR or situational pass rusher.
Mm-hmm.
He had 4.5 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, and 16 solo tackles. You're not bringing this guy in to be the face of your pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still kind of holding out hope that Ebiketie can take a step forward, or maybe we draft a Tyree Wilson or Miles Murphy or somebody like that in the first round, and then you pair this guy who has a lot of experience at rushing from
Mm-hmm.
different platforms, whether it be a wide nine, whether it be on doing like twists and stunts, or even rushing from the second level, from the linebacker position.
Yep.
In the A gap, looking at that like the mug looks. Like he's a very versatile piece. I don't think he's going to carry your pass rush, but
No.
he can definitely augment and supplement your pass rush in a way that I don't think you've had consistently. Like
Yeah.
if they decide not to bring back a guy like a Lorenzo Carter, then this is a guy who I think could definitely fill that kind of a role. So,
Yeah, he like when I start thinking about in my head like how this would work with Arden Key. Like you said, he's you can kind of put him in a bunch of different spots
mm-hmm.
for him to rush the passer from. Drop out in coverage, and you're going to have to do that from time to time. But like my thought process here is, third and long, obvious pass situations. If we were to get both of our guys, like so we got Draymond Jones, and we ended up picking up Arden Key. If we do that, then I could absolutely see a defensive line, like a four down lineman of Arden Key, Draymond Jones, Grady Jarrett, Ebiketie on the, so the two speed guys on the
Mm-hmm.
outside, the two, two penetrating defensive tackles on the inside. I could absolutely see that being a really good fit. And then also, like you said, he does a lot of good job, good work on the interior. So you could take a guy like a Draymond Jones, who I did see stand up, like rush from a stand up position, even on the inside uh, in Denver. I could see moving him out to defensive end, so you have a kind of a bigger body to potentially set the edge
Mm-hmm.
in case they decide to try to do like some sort of a draw or some sort of a zone type run out of third and seven, third and eight, try
Right.
to catch us off guard, and then have Key next to Grady Jarrett and have like some more like quicker hands in there against some of the interior guys. I could see that being a good pairing as
Or
well.
you like, you run out, potentially uh, D'Angelo Malone, Ebiketie, Arden Key, and either Jones or Grady, and almost do like a NASCAR package. Having
Yep.
everybody stand up, at the line. You don't know who's coming. You don't know who's going to be dropping into coverage. So, or say you do, uh, draft a Tyree Wilson or something like that. Have everybody standing up and give a little bit more of like I said, a NASCAR package look. They come. I got Alexa behind me, and every now and again, just pop off. I'm like, "What are you doing? Nobody talking to you."
Yep.
Uh,
Nobody was
that's
talking to
right.
you.
Anyway, so on to your next guy that you had earmarked. We'll just kind of ping pong this. Uh,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna go ahead and throw his picture on up if you want to talk about the guy you got lined up.
Yeah. So David Long Jr., linebacker, Tennessee. Guy is I think he's in his let's see, fourth year, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, he was drafted and started in 2019, 2022. So, both of the guys and Arden Key, but both the guys I've looked at are sort of kind of guys that are on the ascension.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, like 2019, as far as tackles, whether it's solo or assisted tackles, he only had like 12.
Mm-hmm.
45 2020, 69 in 2021 through 10 games, and then 71 total tackles through 12 games before his injury in 2022. So he would have had another five. He would have gotten close to, if not over, 100 tackles.
Right.
Would be my guess. The guys, the biggest knock I could see somebody against him is kind of in the same vein as a Kobe Dean, but this guy has produced, right? This guy has produced. Not but he's 5'11"
Right.
and like 225. He's not your prototypical middle linebacker that's got the neck roll and is gonna thump the
I'm gonna
guys in the
say,
running game. Although,
shorten you by
although,
a few inches.
yeah, yeah, he definitely uh, is able to fill the holes. And the tape that I looked at of him, he seemed to always be in position. He's got a knack for not allowing guys to like defensive linemen to like eat him up.
Mm-hmm.
He's able to stay off of them because unfortunately, a smaller guy like that, defensive lineman gets a hold of him. There's not a whole lot he's going to be
Right.
able to do.
Yep.
But his speed, he runs like at the combine, he ran like a 4.45 40
That's
with
moving.
exceptional, with like a 1.5 10-yard split. So I mean, the guy has quickness. Guy has the top end speed. Reminds you more of like a Deion Jones type, though not as tall.
Mm-hmm.
About the same weight though. Like they kind of are in the same weight class. So he's a little bit more stocky than a Deion Jones would be. Um, but he looked the part. He's on the rise. So if this is a guy that they're not able to bring back, he does in fact hit free agency. I could see this being a guy, but again, it all depends. Are they looking for a beefier? He's a really good off ball linebacker.
Right. Which is
And
evident.
if that's something they're looking for,
Right. Which
so
is evident with the 5 pass defenses. But
yep,
he had 7 tackles for loss and 52 solo tackles. So, like, even with a shortened season, like that shows an active player. That shows a player
yes,
who, I know, like, we don't just look at stats and box scores, but they do tell something of a story if you're looking at it, right. And so, solo tackles, of course, like if it's 7-8 yards downfield, that might be problematic, but it does seem to be, at least with the pass defenses and the tackles for loss, he's definitely active, around the ball, which is what you
yeah.
want. He seems like, because I think, given what we have seen from New Orleans, saying that that's what Nielsen's bringing forward, we won't really know until we see it on field. We can only look at where he came from. They did ask their linebackers to cover a lot more, which made it
Yeah. Now,
really
now if he does a lot of that, he's going to be pretty good at that.
right,
He's got he's got the speed, and not just the top end speed, but he's got the quickness. With the splits and everything that we looked at, or that I looked at, like the guy has the quickness. He doesn't. And the good thing about the quickness is, even if he like takes a wrong step somewhere, he's got the speed to make up the difference.
right,
If like he like a play action fake or something like that, he's got the speed to be able to get back in coverage better. Seemed to have really good awareness for where he needed to be. So like it didn't seem to it definitely seemed like it was a a plus for him
right.
with that speed, obviously.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's an element that we're going to need. I mean, it's been really interesting so far that there's initial talks that the team is interested in bringing Rashawn Evans back, which is kind of
Mm-hmm.
interesting with the fact that you know in New Orleans like their coverage linebackers, and Evans is definitely not a coverage linebacker. So it'd be interesting to see if they go after somebody like a Long or what have you, because I think they are going to need it.
Well, and when we say New Orleans wanted like to have their coverage linebackers, uh, that's probably all comes down from Allen,
And
right?
that's right. And that's like when we talk about scheme fits this first year under Nielsen and under Gray, like we can only go off of where they came from. And
Hmm.
at those places, neither one of them was the DC. Neither one of them was
Yep.
calling the shots. So we don't know if, like, when they come together, they may be like, no, no, I want a linebacker that's going to shorten your neck. And
Yep.
if that's the case, then they may want to stick with, Rashawn Evans, who's much better coming downhill and filling gaps than he is out in coverage. So all this is like
Well,
with a grain of salt in a sense.
yeah, and maybe they want Rashawn Evans for that, and then you got your Anderson for like going out into the flats
Mm-hmm.
and covering down the field, and Rashawn Evans is more of run game. I'm here to stop the run game,
Right.
and then stick close to like the 5 yard passes to the running back as like an outlet. He's that guy. He's not the guy that goes out
And it
downfield.
runs
Uh,
downfield with a slot receiver or what have you.
exactly.
So
So either way, I do like David Long.
yeah,
Like I said, the only knock that I've seen against him that I can even think of to put against him really is his height and weight. As a if you're gonna have him,
hmm
you better have good defensive line play to keep him clean.
right, right,
If
right.
you don't keep him clean, then
He's
he's
just going to
gonna get
get
swallowed
yeah,
up.
he's just going to get washed. Yep.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree. Well, hopefully with my next guy, we'll add to the D line play because that's kind of where I've really focused at was the defensive line because I feel like that needs the most help. And I tapped
Yep.
Jacksonville again. They had a good defensive line and have added pieces to it through the draft that may make some of these guys we're talking about expendable. And the guy that I'm talking about is Dwayne Smoot. He was a guy who I was actually eyeing last year as a guy I thought we could get on a reasonable deal. He ends up going back to Jacksonville on a 1 year deal. So we have another chance at him again this season. He recorded 5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, and 14 solo tackles from his defensive end position. Now, talk about another big defensive end. He's 6'3", 264. According to Pro Football Reference, he really could have been like 270. He's a
Well, yeah, like NFL.com shows him at 275.
yeah. I was about to say like watching the film, he really looked like he could have been, you know, 270, 275, maybe even a biscuit under 280. He's a big fella who did some of his best work, oddly enough, like standing up. There's a part of me that really wishes we still had Marlon Davidson with bringing in Nielsen, because I think Nielsen could have had fun with, having Marlon Davidson stand up and do what he did at Auburn. But Dwayne Smoot, I think, is a guy, if you're wanting to get bigger at edge, for edge setting, for, rushing the passer in that aspect with power as much as it is speed. Dwayne Smoot is a guy who I don't think would break the bank, but could come in and give you some solid, like very solid reps. Like out there in Jacksonville, he was spending time with splitting time with Arden Key and Josh Allen and Kavon Chasen, and there was a handful of others. So he didn't have. I'm trying to see if I could see how many snaps. I mean, he played in 15 games and has 22 career sacks. The past 4 years since 2019, it's been 6, 5.5, 6, and 5. So you see, he's had consistent production.
Yeah,
Again, these two guys that I'm talking about aren't going to come in and dissuade you from taking a blue chip prospect in the draft if it falls your way, but they could come in and be very, very solid additions, to your pass rush room, to your pass rush rotation. Dwayne Smoot can kick inside, and like if you had, say you landed both Arden Key and Dwayne Smoot, I saw them more than once, Smoot being inside with Arden Key on the outside, and them running a game.
yep.
So that's something that caught my eye. I mean, legitimately watching Arden Key, I was like, "Who's 91?" I was like, "Oh snap, that's Smoot." I was like, "I wanted Smoot last year." So like adding,
Well,
go ahead.
and I'd be down with bringing those two guys in for the simple fact that just like with the thought process behind bringing in a wide receiver from college that your quarterback played with. These two guys have been playing together. Um, they've been playing together for years now.
Mm-hmm.
They got used to each other. They know how to play that's the twists and the stunts in the game. They've got that stuff down. So bringing them in here, that gives them a little bit of a leg up whenever they're asked to do that because they know each
Right.
other so well.
They know how each other moves in that aspect. So yeah, I mean, as far as like front seven goes, those those four guys that we talked about, uh, Dermont Jones, I think Dermont Jones is probably like your highest tier out of the guys that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to add him to this D line, I think he represents like a big upgrade. But even David Long, with his pass coverage and speed, I think would add well. But yeah, that's I think all those guys could represent a clear upgrade from what we've had the past 2 years.
Absolutely. Um, Only guy that I could, if he makes it there, there's only really two other guys. Well, technically three. So I'll put this: my top five
Mm-hmm.
as far as interior defensive lineman going into this offseason. My number one was still Deron
Oh
Payne.
yeah,
That's kind of
yeah,
gone by. That's kind of gone by the
kind
wayside.
of.
Uh, I mean, it could we like if they can't come to some sort of an agreement on that, if if he's not going to sign and they decide like, hey, we need to trade, maybe we look there.
Right.
Now, if that happens, no, it wouldn't. I don't think it could happen that way. I was gonna say if it could maybe happen like after the draft and we could worry about next year's picks, that would be cool. But that's not.
No,
I
no,
don't think that's going to happen.
they're gonna want compensation this year, I would imagine.
But okay, so like the Deron Payne, but then after that, like the guys, Javon Hargrave,
Yeah.
Dalvin Tomlinson, I know there's been some talk about him.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I would love to have Javon Hargrave. If Philadelphia lets him get out of there, that's real dumb on their part,
Yeah.
but I will take it. Um, Dalvin Tomlinson, same thing. And then the other guy is Zach Allen. Like any one of those five guys, if we were to bring in, I would probably say, Deron Payne's one, Javon Hargrave probably two, like 1A.
Right.
And then the other three guys, Dalvin, Zach Allen, Draymond Jones, those guys, um, like any one of those three guys that we get, if we can't get the top two guys, I'd be perfectly fine with. And maybe even bring in like a Sheldon Rankins
Yeah,
or Matt.
yeah, my honorable mentions would be like somebody like a Sheldon Rankins who's had previous experience with Nielsen uh when his time in New Orleans. Also like edge guys would be like Yannick Ngakoue. If
Mm-hmm.
he's not brought back in with Indianapolis. He's been kind of a mercenary since he left Jacksonville. From the Ravens to the Raiders to Indianapolis. And speaking of another like quote unquote mercenary, like it might finally be the time to bring in Jadeveon Clowney that everybody's been like clamoring for years. Like
Yeah.
he's a good edge setter. He's a good rotational piece. But like he's not going. He's a good vet to add to a young room. To me, what
Yes.
Clowney represents. But guys like Yannick Ngakoue, guys like Morgan Fox, another interior penetrating like 4-eye kind of rusher, 5 tech
Mm-hmm.
even. Like he's a guy who I think he recorded 7 sacks out in L.A. this past season. Finally had like a real breakout year. He's been a role player up to this point in his career. So he might have priced himself out of what they're willing to spend, but I'd love to bring in Morgan Fox, bring him back to
Yeah.
the NFC South. He showed well for the Panthers when he played for them. Yeah, so they should definitely add to the front seven via free agency, and there's some
Yeah.
really good, intriguing names out there that could easily make this front seven much better. Um, there's a Nazir Dean. No, he might be a safety. I was trying to think of. There's a linebacker who his last name's Ellis, Caden Ellis, I believe, out of New Orleans, who played, with Nielsen. Might be some familiarity there. So,
Yep.
but I've been focused more on like the D line because with Troy Anderson, Michael Walker, like this newer system might fit Walker a little bit better than what Pease was asking him to do. So, yeah, my focus has been on D line.
Yeah. You covered a bunch of guys. I'll say like if he can stay healthy, guy like Marcus Davenport,
Yeah,
guy gets a lot of pressure, kind of doesn't know how to finish the plays quite yet, which is kind of he's been in the league now a few years,
right. You would hope.
kind of concerning. But maybe you can unlock something with him. Guys like Charles Omenihu or even Samson Ebicom from San Francisco.
Right,
Both those guys are potential free agent. Melvin Ingram out of Miami.
right. Yeah, if you wanted to bring him
Those
in for
guys.
some veteran presence.
Yeah. Now I will say, as far as if we the linebackers, my number one, if we were going to go linebacker, I picked David Long because everybody knows what this guy's got. The guy I'm getting ready to say, which is Tremaine Edmonds.
Right,
Uh,
yeah, right. Trying to give like the first part of this was more or less trying to give y'all some names that you ain't been like haven't really been on anybody's radar. But yeah, like if we could get Tremaine Edmonds, for sure, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Now like I said, I still think that if they want Rashawn Evans, I think he likes playing here. and I think that if he does come back, it'll be that'll be I think it'll work out. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but like I said, if for some reason we don't bring back Rashawn or what have you, and we can bring in a Tremaine Edmonds, now he's probably going to cost an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
Rashawn Evans, probably not.
Right.
So maybe that's obviously going to play into it. But
Yeah.
either way, and another guy, Leighton Vander Esch, great. He's a
Mm-hmm.
really good linebacker. Can't really stay healthy. That's a problem.
Yeah, that's kind of been the knock on Vander Esch is he can't necessarily stay healthy. So if you were
Yep.
bringing in a guy like Vander Esch, you bring him in with an incentive laden deal to
Oh
kind of
yeah.
protect the team there. So,
Yep. But yeah, him, Denzel Perryman,
mm-hmm.
Jermaine Pratt out of Cincinnati.
Right.
Uh, all of those guys, like I could see any one of those guys maybe showing up here. But again, at the end of the day, I think I honestly think like our linebackers are fine
Mm-hmm.
for the most part. Would it hurt to bring in a guy like specifically say like a David Long Jr.? No, or even like I said, maybe the Vander Esch comes in, what have you. But I think if we bulk up that defensive line with some of the guys we talked about here, both on your side
Mm-hmm.
and my side, and just some of the honorable mentions, if we can bulk up that, and then also in the draft bring in guys to bulk up that defensive line to help keep these linebackers cleaner, then I think we're going to really like the results that we see
Yep.
out of that. Because I
I
think these guys all play.
right.
Uh, we just got to keep them clean.
Exactly. And I think that that also feeds into next week's free agent spotlight, which will be the defensive backs,
Yep.
safeties and defensive backs. You bulk up this line and get consistent pressure. That's going to help
Mm-hmm.
that area out as well. All this stuff, just like on the offense, all this stuff works in unison. It like you can build it however you want to build it, but if you have a weak link, it's going to hurt other aspects of it. And the
Mm-hmm.
last few years, the weak link has definitely been the defensive line.
Yep.
So if we can bulk that stuff up and get some consistent pressure, get some consistent run stopping, that's going to make the linebackers' lives easier and the defensive backs easier.
Yep.
So that leads obviously keep your eye out next week for what will basically wrap this little segment up of looking at free agency and getting us, a week closer to free agency, where we will be talking about defensive backs, whether it's corners and or safeties. As always, y'all can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Grim1128, GRIMM1128. Jonathan?
At Jonathan M. Holder, come say hi.
That's right. And as always, Falcons fans, rise up.
Rise up.